Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am Amanda,
I'm Laura.
and today we are going to talk about something very important, which is repairs. And today specifically, we'll talk about repairs with children, but it applies to all of our relationships. But we'll do a separate podcast also on repairs with adult relationships.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about a TED Talk by Dr. Becky Kennedy. She called it the single most important parenting strategy. She's a clinical psychologist, mom of three, and founder of Good Inside, which is both a parenting podcast and also an online parenting membership that we will link to. Her specialty is helping people become better parents. So the crux of the talk is about repairs between a parent and a child after things haven't gone so smoothly. But being able to make repairs is a critical skill for any relationship. After all, every relationship will always encounter bumps in the road. Lucky for parents out there, though, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. And there's also no such thing as a perfect relationship. But knowing how to come back together after we've botched it is one of the most important things we can learn. It's also pretty important for something we can model to our kids too, so they learn it. And no one tells us what to do next. Do we just move on, pretend it didn't happen? What do we do? Enter repair. Repair is the act of going back to the moment of disconnection, taking responsibility for your action, and acknowledging the impact it had on you. This is different from an apology, which often aims to shut the conversation down. A good repair opens the conversation up. A repair assumes there's been a rupture. There's no denial, but it has baked in hope. To repair means something must have been broken, but rather berating yourself over it, it gets you busy doing something positive about it.
I think that's so interesting that she talks about how just apologizing for something doesn't repair. It is sometimes, well, I've said I'm sorry, so isn't that enough? Like it's
Yeah.
to shut the conversation down.
You want to move on.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Which, we've been taught, to say you're sorry. That's so important to be able to say you're sorry. And it is, and it's not enough to create repair. So then she goes on to talk about what happens if you don't repair. So when there's been a rupture, meaning something happened that caused emotional distress, that other person usually feels alone, distressed, or overwhelmed. So say somebody did something and it really hurt me, and they just said, well, I'm sorry, and just kind of moves on and blows it off. I might feel kind of alone, and especially for kids who are in the power dynamic, their parents are so much more powerful. It's going to feel so disempowering to them to basically to be told, suck it up, which we are very familiar with the old suck it up, but that's going to be hard. And it's not going to lead to connection in that relationship. Interestingly, kids tend to self-blame in these situations because for a young kid, it actually feels safer to them to believe that they did something wrong than that the people who are responsible for their well-being on this planet could have done something wrong or that they might be bad. So this is where kids can be in horribly abusive situations and they think that it is because of them. And it also helps them feel a sense of control, like there's something that they could actually do about it rather than that just the parents are being horrible parents. So it's interesting. It's a safer world for them to blame themselves than their caregivers. And it's adaptive for them to believe that their parents and the world around them is safe and good. I know, it's really sad. It's really heartbreaking to think about that and to think about, maybe a situation we have had, and trigger warning, but in our own childhood where we tried to focus the blame on ourselves rather than someone else so that we could feel a little safer. So that self-blame can be adaptive for survival in childhood. The core message of I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I make bad things happen, I'm not good enough, or even that I need to behave a certain way for other people to treat me kindly, those are incredibly destructive when we're adults. And Dr. Kennedy says that these are the stories we created for ourselves when we were left alone, when distressing events went unrepaired. So we don't want that. We don't want that for our kids, for sure. So when we get good at repairs, get to add in safety, connection, love, and goodness. And while it doesn't change the event that happened, you can help remove that self-blame from your child or your loved one's future. So the story around that event can change. So step one is something happened and there was a rupture, and rupture is inevitable in relationship. That is going to happen all the time. So that's okay as long as we go to repair. So next, we want to repair with ourselves. This includes separating your identity from what you did. You can be a good parent who was having a hard day and snapped at their kids. This doesn't mean that what you did was the right thing to do. It doesn't mean that you're excusing it. It just frees up your energy from like self-loathing to use it for something more useful for the person you hurt, like making a repair and making a plan to do things better next time. It's hard to help someone else when you yourself are like hating on yourself and are not grounded in your own self-worth. The next is you repair with the child or whoever the rupture was with. So say the rupture here was you're out at Target or whatever with your kid. They're like grabbing things or being, somehow you become annoyed and you yell at them. So you first repair with yourself and say, hey, I'm not a horrible parent and I just am having a bad day and I didn't show up the way I wanted to. Next, you're going to repair with the child by say what happened, take responsibility. Saying what happened is like the objective words, not like you were being so annoying. No, you were picking up candy when I asked you not to. And then you take responsibility. I became very annoyed and frustrated. And then I lost control of my temper and yelled at you. And then the last thing is you say what you would do differently next time. Next time, I would take a deep breath and keep my cool. And acknowledging too that the emotion that the other person may have had, it must have felt scary for me to yell at you because I know I don't yell very often, and that must have felt scary. And I'm sorry for that. So examples of not repair would be like, hey, I'm sorry I yelled, but I wouldn't have yelled if you hadn't been so annoying.
Hey,
That's not
thanks.
repair. Yeah, thanks. That
You coulda
doesn't
scared me.
repair the situation. You really need to be more grateful for, oh gosh, that is super tricky. Oh my gosh. You really need to be more grateful or whatever, and then you won't get yelled at. Yeah. Telling people they need to be more grateful is probably not creating repair. Just say.
It's the same excitement I have when somebody tells me I need to smile more or something like that. It's just like,
Oh, you mean homicidal rage?
yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anywho, we probably should have put trigger warnings that we were gonna trigger everyone with there. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So if you learn anything from coaching, your child or your partner or whoever it is that you exploded at or whatever didn't cause your reaction. It's your thoughts about the situation. That plus you probably didn't have any emotional reserve, you're stressed, you've been working overnights, whatever it is. All of that is adding to it. It wasn't the child or the partner that did it. And listen, I love Taylor Swift as much as the next person, but there's a funny song, Look What You Made Me Do. That's not a thing. Someone doesn't make you do anything. You got up out of your seat and you did whatever it was that you did. So instead of blaming the other person, attempt to have a repair that increases your connection rather than drives you apart. I mean, when you're saying, listen, kiddo, I blew up because you're being such a little turd. You think that brings you closer? No. Like, you probably could have skipped that quote unquote apology. Like, if anything, I hate apologies like that are like, listen, it probably would have just been better if you skipped that because now I'm super full.
Yeah, that's more. I don't know that
It's not exactly gaslighting, but it's like
it
it's
is
on that
kind of
same
gaslighting.
level of like wow, I feel even more invalidated. Thanks.
Well, it is gaslighting when we blame other people for our behavior. It
It's
is gaslighting. Like,
It's not, yeah, it's not accurate is, I guess, all
no.
I'm trying to say. But here's the thing, instead of blaming the other person, when you start to have repairs that increase your connection, the results can be a person who grows into an adult that doesn't automatically spiral into self-blame. We talked about that, that's the tendency. It's also an adult who knows how to take responsibility for his or her behavior Because you've modeled it. This is the worst thing about being a parent is they don't do what you say. They do what you do. And so you can tell them all the great things about themselves, but if you don't act like that towards yourself, guess what they pick up?
Mhm.
It's the stuff you model, which I hate that, but that's just how it is. So once you've reconnected and cooled off, then you have a connected relationship where you can teach a life skill. Like, for example, in the TED Talk, Dr. Kennedy talks about she was stressed out, cooking chicken or whatever it was that she was cooking, and her kid walked in and was like, chicken again? Ew, disgusting. And like she lost it. Well, once she made the repair and is connected, she can then teach them like, hey, instead of saying what I made for dinner is disgusting, you can simply say something like a little more neutral, like, that's not my favorite. Because disappointment is understandable, but you don't need to be disrespectful. I expect you to be respectful regardless of what the situation is. And that teaching moment doesn't work well when you're disconnected. It only feels like one more thing or even causes a little rebellion, right?
Yeah.
So Dr. Kennedy ends her talk by addressing concerns that probably most of us wonder if it's too late to start making those repairs. Maybe our kids are older. Maybe they're adults now. But she just wants to reassure you that it's not too late. And to show her point, she says to imagine that you suddenly got a call from your parent, or if they're not alive, you found a letter that they had written to you. And it says, and this is directly from the thing, hey, I know this is kind of out of the blue, but I've been thinking about your childhood, and I bet there were a lot of moments that felt really bad to you. And you were right to feel that way. Those moments weren't your fault. They were times that I was struggling. And if I could have gone back, I would have stepped aside. I would have calmed myself down and I would have found you after to help you with whatever you were struggling with. And I am so sorry. And if you're ever willing to talk with me about any of those moments, I'll listen. And I won't be listening to have a rebuttal. I will be listening to understand. I love you. And most people, like, oh my God, are like,
Yeah.
why am I crying right now? Or maybe you even think, you know what? It wouldn't have fixed it, but it might have fixed some things. It might have made it a little better. And so because
It
of
would have
that,
connected.
being with
It
your,
would have
yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have made it worse and it might have helped. And so with your child, the good thing about your child is they don't have this whole life story set in stone. I mean, none of ours are set in stone per se, but theirs has been a much shorter life story and still able to be edited. And so you can get to work on editing that story to have a much better impact. And just imagine what you can do with your child's life if you start learning how to make actual repairs.
So powerful.
Yeah, what a great talk today. Definitely a lot of reflection points there. Probably put this one on rewind and listen a couple times because I think we all could definitely get better at this skill, but hone it. Definitely just practice, 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 and it could definitely make a difference no matter what age of your, or not your patient, but your child is. So hope this has helped you. Hope that you gleaned a little something from it. And if you did, go ahead and scroll down and give us 5 stars and leave us a review. And that makes our ripple just a little bit bigger. So until next time, you are whole, you are a gift to medicine, and the work you do matters.
Thank you for joining us for the Drive Time Debrief. If this podcast has helped you, be sure to share it with others. Please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review so other doctors can find us. If you want to know more about what we do or work with us, go to our website at thewholephysician.com and schedule a free 30-minute strategy session. We'd love to help you create the life you dreamed of before things went awry. It's absolutely possible.